Hey folks, these are the items that we'll go over. You can go next slide. So just as a reminder, the Port Authority has a commitment to the ADA and in fact to universal design principles overall. All codes that reference the ICC standard A117.1, we do follow them diligently and require our tenant applications to as well. Civil engineers follow PROAG, and there's a little bit of a legal authority issue about the applicability of PROAG that is in the process of being resolved actually at the federal level right now. But the civil projects are not reviewed by the SAR committee. And the SAR is above and beyond base ADA at any rate. We have a commitment to design excellence, and we have committed to some above and beyond efforts as identified with the supplemental accessibility requirements, or we're going to call them SAR. Next slide, please. So the facilities at the Port Authority are responsible for this compliance. Our engineering department actually assists with the law department when we get letters from the DOJ or the FAA. And all of our capital and operating projects that affect public accessibility are reviewed by our law department. There's a protocol with our project management office. Our engineering department does QA/QC checking of our own work, and we also audit consultant work that's done directly for us. This is, beyond the TCAP process. The TCAP process is mentioned here in the last bullet. But if you are ever a professional record for a design build or a public-private partnership, you will be it will be your task to make sure that we're compliant, of course, subject to audit. And then, of course, we're talking here today about mostly tenant work and some of the development projects, which are also submitted under the TCAP process. Next slide. So we have some examples here of what we've done sort of in-house above and beyond, and some of these projects also had consultant teams helping us. But the example here at Harrison Station is that the escalator, stair, and elevator are co-located so that there's no preference to what your ability is to get up to the second level and take the train. Next slide. At the George Washington Bridge North Walk, we provided ramps that were actually less than the slope, under the slope required for ADA compliance. And we also added these belvederes as a public amenity so that you could have a view to the bridge. That's a night shot of the North Walk right before it was about to open, and a rendering of the same belvedere in that location. Next slide, please. So that's compliance plus amenities. And then we've been doing glass elevators for years. Also, our cab sizes tend to be large enough for gurneys, for ambulance gurneys. So extra large, extra visible, extra safe. And then there are passenger amenities, things such as moving walkways in various places. If you know Terminal A, it's quite a long walk from the last parking space to the last gate at the terminal. Next slide, please. We have done a lot of restroom renovations with and without consultants. We did the first all-gender restroom at Newark Airport there on the right. On the left is Jamaica Station. These also follow our aviation standards, and the aviation standards, if you're asked to design something for aviation, they'll give you those standards. And those standards actually bring you most of the way there to SAR compliance, because the aviation standards consider those passengers who might have to travel with bags and so forth. And so the dimensions required for an aviation restroom are larger than a standard restroom. Next slide. Lastly, we do a lot of work with graphics. So on the left is the George Washington Bridge bus station, which uses what's known as the Mix&R standard. Mix&R is the graphic designer who helped us to design this international color and graphic standard for signage. And the newest standard was applied to a place like Terminal A. You see some illuminated signs and clear graphics and color-coded items, and also using a lot of icons. Icons are a very clever way of making sure those who have trouble, reading a lot of material all at once understand where they need to go. It's a shorthand that gets people with unseen disabilities, such as cognitive disabilities, helps them get around the world more quickly than if they have to read, as an example. Next slide. And then actually, the last one wasn't last, but this slide is meant to show you some additional SAR requirements. The current SAR doesn't mention it, but there is the Port Authority has a history of providing respite spaces for instance, at airport terminals to calm travelers, especially autistic kids, as an example. But the other thing that the SAR does regulate is we require hearing loops at our welcome centers, which is on the right, and then in the middle is a movable table at a restaurant. Our SAR actually regulates movable furniture. This is something that base ADA stays away from. It only does built-in furniture. We regulate our movable furniture so that people with disabilities will have equal access to things such as restaurants in a terminal. Next slide. Please, next slide. Thank you. So a little bit of background. Our chief engineer and executive director authorized this effort in January of 2020. We did a lot of research and development, and then had a break-in period. So by August 2021, there was no more grace period, and the policy was final. Collaboration between our engineering department, our Office of Diversity and Inclusion, and the Abilities Network, EBRG, which is the employees of the Port Authority who have various sensory issues, and they had a lot to say about these policies. Our task was to establish us as a leader in inclusion and go above and beyond, and we're very proud of this. We had support from United Spinal, which many of you may have worked with in the past. I worked with them when I first got this job many decades ago, and also one of our architects who's experienced with these issues. And both that consultant and others continue to do audits for us for compliance, especially in the TCAP arena, where we have done over 1,100 audits to date. Next slide, please. So there's a timeline here just to show you that this process was very carefully vetted from within the authority. We did visioning sessions. We had a comment period. We presented it at a public ADA event. And we have training modules. And the reason why I leave this in here is because there are links to the training, both to the manual and the training associated with the manual. And as noted before, there was a grace period so that the TCAP community could have some time to get used to this. Next slide. So the Port Authority has a mission, and we aim to give the best customer service, to be diverse and inclusive, to use global best practices. And this policy also supports that and other priorities and standards that are published on the Port Authority website as our goals for the region. Next slide. So just a little bit of background about the document itself. Of course, it has an executive summary. It does give you background about how it came to be and a little section on how to use the document. Then there are the rules themselves, which are working rules that use code language that you should be familiar with, because some of this was lifted directly from the ANSI 117.1 or other code sources. And of course, it is important to note that this policy is mandatory for all new construction. And if there's an alteration, you would need to talk to the committee about it if there's a technical infeasibility, but generally we want to see it for even alterations. And then there are 3 appendices, one which has explanatory material, the other one which has additional considerations for your consideration, so to speak, designers speaking to designers about how you best can design for accessibility without being prescriptive. Those are our non-prescriptive suggestions. And then in Appendix C, we have a topic by topic summary, which is kind of an abbreviated reference. Next slide. So just to give you an idea of what's in there, so those of you who design exclusively in New York, New Jersey, of course, by code has already adopted the latest ANSI standards, which includes in the upper left the 67-inch turning circle diameter, but that's required on any Port Authority project. The 52-inch approach rectangle as opposed to 48 in the old standard. In the upper right is an adult changing table, which is required in certain family restrooms that are in a ganged restroom arrangement. You can read the actual standard to see where it's required. We require hearing loops at select ticket counters and all of our welcome centers. And you can see next to the hearing loop symbol is a diagram of an accessible table that meets the requirements of knee and toe room, and plus a base that does not get in the way of wheelchair accessibility for the table. And the requirements themselves are next to that. See the cover of the current cover of the requirements. Next slide. Okay, so some familiar TCAP issues. I'm not going to do a blow-by-blow analysis, but just to remember what I said about applicability. There is a process where the SAR team reviews all first submittals. Sometimes the submittals have no content, so we just say no need to see it further. QAD reviews and reconciles our comments. Obviously, we overlap because if they're talking about workplace accessibility, we're going to be commenting on it too. So we make sure that we've coordinated comments. And it's just important to note that SAR comments can withhold an application. So since we're beyond the grace period, you have to respond to all of our comments. We did do a little cost analysis about the cost of doing the SAR, and really it's quite negligible. Of course, in New Jersey, it's almost zero because New Jersey has already adopted the higher standard. And adult changing stations and the hearing loops are somewhat of an exception, although obviously in a new facility, those requirements are easier and less expensive to accomplish. We do have two documents that your reviewer can supply to you, a common oversights document and a restaurant table and seating guide that can help familiarize you with both things that might trip you up and this new requirement for movable furniture. Next slide. So, as to point out, we have over 1,000 we've done over 1,000 actually. I'm sorry, this is outdated. As of last month, it was more than 1,100, closer to 1,200. The aviation standards align very well with this, noting that New Jersey adopted the ANSI and that New York City actually has an accessibility chapter that goes above and beyond. So all of you who design in these different realms should be aware of your local laws, because whatever is the strictest for accessibility is the one that's going to apply according to the SAR. And of course, you always have to follow the law in the jurisdiction in which you design. We are drafting a new SAR that acknowledges these changes in codes and may go above and beyond, but we're also trying to simplify the SAR. Some of you may have noticed the thing is over 100 pages. It's going to be much shorter now because of the synchronization with ANSI A117.1. And we are going this again internally and with York and with this community at a certain point. We will put it out there, and there will be another overlap period where you can still design to the old standard and get used to the new standard. That's next slide, please. Okay.